Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Montgomery High School College and Career Podcast. In this episode, we're talking about the California Dream Act and why it's so critical for you if you're an undocumented student. Tune in and find out. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Pallo, College and Career Counselor at Montgomery High School, and this is the third installment of the episode of Financial Aid 101. This is strictly with the California Dream Act. Okay, so the California Dream Act is the financial aid, main financial aid vehicle for students who are undocumented or students who have a DACA permit. Okay, because the undocumented students are not eligible for federal funds, they cannot fill out a FAFSA, and you will not be able to receive Pell Grant. So the state of California is your primary source of financial aid. The California Dream Act is very important for you if you're an undocumented student or a student who has a DACA permit. Okay, the window for filing your California Dream Act application starts October 1st of your senior year, and you must file your California Dream Act financial aid application by March 2nd. It's important that you meet that March 2nd deadline because funds through the state of California, through the Cal Grant, are going to be your primary source of financial aid. So depending if you're going to go where you go. So if you go to a four-year school and you're an undocumented student, you want to go to a California four-year school, you're going to be dependent on that Cal Grant A to get that. If you're going to the JC, you would be eligible for Cal Grant B as an undocumented student, and that gets you an extra $1,672 a year for 2 years. And that's really awesome. So I wouldn't turn that down. In addition to SRJC for free, which is a 2-year tuition waiver, and Doyle Scholarship for 2 years, that's $4,600 right there, plus an additional $1,672. That's a pretty good chunk of change. So undocumented students are very dependent on state aid through the Cal Grant and institutional aid from the school they're going to go to next year. So it's very, very important. It's a must-have situation where you meet that March 2nd deadline in order to get financial aid. Okay, so the qualifications for the Dream Act, number one, you have to be an undocumented student or a DACA holding student. You have to have attended 3 full years in a California high school or in the California school system, either at an elementary school, middle school, or high school. Because some students, they may have crossed back and forth across the border. So their 3 years might be a little bit stretched out, but some students, if you're at the same high school for 3 years, obviously you're going to qualify. But other students who are newcomers, they may have come back and forth across the border. You can count elementary school years, middle school years, and high school years to get that 3 years. So that's a very, very important feature. And number two, in order to get Cal Grant funds through the California Dream Act, you must have graduated from a California high school. So it's very, very important that you graduate. And if you don't graduate, you must get a GED. So the graduation is easier than a GED. So that would be, make sure you recover those credits, meet with your counselor, make sure you're going to be graduating on time. Okay. Just starting last year in 2019-2020, recipients who filled out a California Dream Act and got Cal Grant B, who were going to California Community College, were able to be considered for Cal Grant B service grants, which are worth an additional $3,000 a year. So depending on what you're going to study, you may be able to qualify for a service grant as well by filing your California Dream Act. So that is pretty awesome. So in order to get those Cal Grant B service grants, eligible students would have to perform 100 hours per quarter or 150 hours per semester of community or volunteer service and attend a California public or private institution. So that's kind of a nice thing. What I see at Montgomery is that undocumented students who are going to Santa Rosa Junior College, when they complete their California Dream Act application by March 2nd, I see most of the undocumented students going to the JC getting Cal Grant B. And Cal Grant B pays you $1,672 a year for 2 years. So that's pretty awesome. In addition to, let's add that up. So if I'm getting out my calculator here. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's say you get Cal Grant B, you get the $1,672 a year for 2 years. So that's $3,344. Plus, you add the SRJC for free and the Doyle Scholarship for 2 years, which adds to $4,600. By meeting the March 2nd deadline, filing your California Dream Act by March 2nd, you're going to get $7,944 between Cal Grant B and SRJC for free and Doyle Scholarship, which is awesome. So undocumented students and DACA holding students who go to a 4-year like Sonoma State or any CSU or UC would be getting Cal Grant A, just like their counterparts, their schoolmates. If you get Cal Grant A, that pays you almost $13,000 a year to go to a UC, almost $5,800 to go to a CSU, and $9,000 to go to a private school. So depending on where you're going, you can get Cal Grant, which is a really good deal. But it's really, really important for undocumented students and students with a DACA that you file your California Dream Act application by March 2nd. So I recommend for both FAFSA and California Dream Act students, file your financial aid, get it done by Christmas time and just be done with it. It's really, really important. Undocumented students are at a disadvantage. You're not able to capture those federal funds because you're not able to fill out FAFSA. You're only eligible for state aid and institutional aid, and it's very, very critical that undocumented students take on that California Dream Act application and file it by March 2nd. You have from October 1st to March 2nd to get those funds. It's very critical for you. Well, that's today's episode of the Montgomery High School College and Career Podcast. If these episodes provide you some kind of value in your college and career readiness, please subscribe to this podcast in any of the major podcatchers out there. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe. And also you can contact me through the email in the show notes if you have ideas for future episodes. Have a great day. Thanks for listening.